Thank you for checking out Internet Stories. Today's story is a girl's perspective of how guys can be creepy. And hopefully some guys can learn how to be less creepy and in turn attract more girls and not scare so many of them away. From Reddit's R Tinder Stories. Stories titled, "Do Other People's Tinder Dates End Up as Creepy as This?" This is my first time on Reddit, so sorry in advance, but I really wanted to share this story. I had been talking to a guy on Tinder for a while. I was abroad when he first started asking to meet up, so by the time we could meet up, we had been talking for about a month. He seemed nice, and the conversation flowed, so I was looking forward to the date. On the night, I was waiting where we had agreed, and a guy walked past and gave a half smile. I thought nothing of this, as it was common for strangers to do this in the part of Newcastle that I'm from. But then I realized he had stopped next to me, so I could only half see him. I turned to face him, and he said, "Are you coming then?" I then realized this was, in fact, the guy that I had been talking to on Tinder for all this time. He looked so different from the photos. I didn't even recognize him. He was clearly the same person, but the photos must have been taken several years ago, and he had changed quite a bit since then. This immediately made me feel uneasy, but I try not to be a judgmental person, and I am a person that cares more about personality than anything when it came to dating, so I went with it. As we started to walk, he told me that he hadn't been out for about 2 months, which was a little odd for a university student, but maybe he had just been working hard. I then asked why he completely ignored me and just randomly started singing in the middle of the street. Again, very odd, but I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just nervous. He then said that he thought I was brave for coming out on a date with someone from a dating app, as he could be anyone, even a murderer or a rapist. He then started ringing alarm bells for me, as all this was starting to creep me out, and we hadn't even made it to the bar yet, which was down the road from where we had met. I really wanted to leave at this point, but I didn't want to be rude or hurt his feelings. So I was planning out in my head what to do. He had returned to singing at this point, and he hadn't really noticed I wasn't paying attention. I then remembered a part of the text of our conversation where he had insisted on paying for drinks and our prospective date, and I refused until we struck a deal. He would pay for the first round, and if I was still interested, I would pay for the second round. This meant that to escape the date, all I had to do was make it through one drink. We get to the bar, but as it's match day, it's full and the bouncers are saying no one's getting in. I then asked him where he wanted to go, and he replied that he didn't know anywhere else in the city. I'm not saying that being territorial or staying in bed is bad. Everyone has their own idea of fun, but it's a little weird to live in a city as a student for 4 years, which he had at this point, and only know one bar. So anyway, I just wanted to get this over with and feel safe. So I suggested going to my favorite pub, as it doesn't fill up that quickly on match day. And I know the staff, so if there is a situation, I could go to them for help. As we were walking there, he makes 2 or 3 more jokes about murdering me, interspersed by jokes like, "What do you call a cow with one leg? Steak?" Which are terrible. Sorry if that's your kind of joke. Which I didn't laugh at, but then he would say, "Oh, you like that? I love seeing you laugh." I was not laughing. not even smiling. Honestly, at this point, I was just confused. So we get to the pub. It's also full. We were standing outside the doors, and he said, when, when we tell our grandchildren this story, we won't tell them we couldn't find anywhere to go. He then went to hug me, but I quickly stepped to the side, so he just awkwardly fell against the wall next to me. At this point, he suggests that we go back to his place to relax with a bottle of vodka. Now he already told me that he doesn't drink, so I'm thinking, who is going to be drinking all that vodka? Me? Why does he even own that much vodka if he doesn't drink? He then proceeds to make another joke about murdering me, so I'm thinking, I have to find somewhere public to go so he can't kill me, or whatever he's planning. And then I see a Frankie's and Benny's across the road, which is empty, so I suggest we go there. Romantic, I know, but at least there are other people. Everything is fairly normal for a while, and we've got our drinks, and after we sit down, he said, I told you a joke earlier, now you need to tell me one. I tried to laugh it off and say, oh, I'm sorry, but I didn't know any as funny as yours. He didn't accept this as an answer and insisted that I tell him one. So I tell him the only joke I know, which is truly awful, by the way. And he says, that joke was really terrible. I think I'm going to have to punish you for that. For about the 10th time during this date, I got chills down my spine. I didn't even have the words to describe how sickeningly cringy it was to hear that. He then, before I got a chance to reply, asked, if I were to ask nicely, would you let me impregnate you? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Who asked that on a first date? Especially when you are the only customer in the restaurant. And so all the staff can hear you? The staff were, in fact, all lined up at the bar, closely listening to this car crash of a date. I then politely declined his offer and proceeded to down my drink. I couldn't take any more of this. I just wanted to go home and tell my flatmates this ridiculous story. He then asks, so, you going to get us another drink? And suddenly, the bit I had been dreading the most was here. I tried to be nice and told him I was very sorry, but I just wasn't feeling a click and didn't think this was going to go any further. He then gets hit this look over his face like a hurt puppy. Honestly, I thought he was going to cry, and I instantly felt awful. He then asked me why, and I then had to just say again that I just didn't feel that click, and he blurts out, is it because of my looks? Even though it generally wasn't because of his looks. Okay, they weren't what I expected, but it was definitely the weirdness that was putting me off. I instantly felt like a superficial bitch and felt that what I had just done was exceptionally cruel. I know, I can be quite easy to guilt. He then asked me to stay with him to the end of the conversation while he finishes his drink. Considering how guilty I felt, I agreed. He then starts to ask me about a tragic event that happened earlier in the year that had affected me for a while. After I explained the situation to him a bit, he took my hand and said, it's okay, I will help you get through this. I then removed my hand and thanked him for his concern and the offer of help, but informed him that I had managed the situation myself and was fine. He had previously asked me about other sensitive events in my life over text for some reason. I had told him, which is why I think he felt like the next comment was somehow supportive. He takes my hand again and says, do you think the reason you drink so much is to handle the pain? I generally couldn't believe what I was hearing when he called me an alcoholic on our first date. Don't get me wrong, I like a drink, but I am definitely not an alcoholic. He then continues, I'm here for you. I can help you get out of this, and I'll support you in becoming sober, in dealing with what happened to you. I honestly didn't know what he was trying to do here. If he was trying to guilt me into spending more time with him, or convince me that I somehow needed fixing and needed him for that, I didn't know. I do try to be kind, patient, and considerate of others in life, but I was sick of this guy, so I stood up and told him I was leaving. He then had one final question for me. Do you think you're a snobby bitch? I silently put my jacket on and left. I got home by 8 p.m. and promptly told the story to my flatmates. A story that is now, thankfully, something we laugh about. Unfortunately, this isn't the only creepy or bad Tinder date story I've had to tell to them. Do other people end up going on dates with creepy guys? Wow, there's a lot of red flags there, and I feel like after the first bar was full, they should have she should have gotten out of there. You know, I'm not the old I'm not feeling well. I gotta go home. Bye bye. And would have done a whole lot better in the end. Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you again soon. Bye.